Hello. I thought I'd jump on a bit unannounced today to talk to you a tiny bit about simple Nordic traditions to welcome spring. And it's gone about 2:15 here in the UK. I am back in the UK following my visit to Denmark. It was gorgeous and I miss it and I feel slightly homesick. But anyway, it's all good. I'm here with my favorite tea, which also came up as one of the topics from my visit, and I'm on licorice and mint today. It's not a home brew as such, not a homemade one. It's a shop bought one, but I do like my licorice, and it reminds me of home. So yes, we're in the end of February, and I don't know about you, but I feel like a bit of the this in-betweeny period can sometimes drag out a bit, and maybe I'm also slightly, how shall I say, coloured by my recent trip and coming back and having to kind of get back into the swing of things. But nevertheless, it's still not quite spring. And having been home to visit friends and family, it has really reminded me of some of the old and very simple traditions and ways that we in Scandinavia use this time of year to the most before actually spring is here. And obviously, today, if you're in the UK, I don't know if it's that widespread otherwise in the rest of the world, but it's Pancake Day. So everyone's getting very excited. And yesterday, a lot of schools in my native Denmark would have been celebrating Fastelavn, so the carnival associated with the pre-Lent tradition. And if nothing else, I think another sight of those lovely Fastelavn buns is definitely going to be a reminder that to cut down on the sugary things. Maybe Lent is a welcome thing. So today I wanted to talk a tiny bit about some of the other traditions that we can use in the run up to spring. And as always, if you're watching this live, you can put in a hashtag live. You can ask questions. I will do my best to keep an eye on the chat. My dashboard on here looks different now, so they might even come up, which is great. And I will try and keep this fairly quick because I've still got so much to catch up on since I got back. And everyone's so busy these days. But anyway, it's very important. I still believe. Oh, sorry, I didn't say. If you're watching it on replay, put in hashtag replay. um, so, and also any questions you may have, I will do my best to answer them. Can you tell I'm a bit tired? I can't really blame it on jet lag because the flight is only an hour and a half, but still. Anyway, okay. So, when I went home, it reminded me of some of those lovely things that people do kind of in this period of time now in the run up to Easter. Now, Easter is obviously a big thing all around the world for various reasons. I think personally, I don't really associate it with religion. I associate it more of a celebration of spring and the kind of arrival of spring. But Easter is still pretty far away. Um, and I'm actually looking forward to going back to my Nordic countries come Easter, but that's a different story. But what do we do this time of year? Well, we're kind of in this in-betweeny period. When I was in Denmark, some days it just felt like serious deep dark winter. It was bitter cold. The wind was howling. There was a winter storm. And then the next minute, it's like blue sky, sunshine. The birds are twittering, and you're starting to feel the arrivals of spring. You feel it in your body. It's amazing. It's beautiful. But there's still some time to go. So, what do people do? There's different traditions, and some of them, may not even be specifically Nordic, but I still thought I would talk about them here. So, I think one of the things that I like, and that I know we like in my family as well, is kind of clearing the decks. Not only because it's coming up to Lent, but it's about using the rest of this heavy food that we've accumulated maybe over Christmas. I was treated to the most gorgeous, like almost like a mini Danish Christmas dinner when I was in Denmark, which was lovely. And it used up a duck roast and some pickled red cabbage and yes, some duck gravy from another meal, and it just it's really nice because the evenings are still really dark and cold, but there is still this lovely sense that the days are slightly lighter and filled with more sunshine and more life. So it's perfect to use this extra sunshine to make the most of it and to start clearing out. So if you haven't already had this, I sometimes call it my little ritualistic clear out around this time of year, then now is a really good time to do it. You might even want to go as far as doing the spring clean. I must admit, I haven't braved that yet, but I am still clearing out things because it's a new year and it's almost like now it's finally getting into the swing of things. And with that, we might become more aware of how we want this year to be, what we want it to look like and feel like. And that might also mean that some things just no longer really fit into this physically in your home, or maybe also more, how should I say, theoretically and practically, in the way that you do things, So you might have to have a look at habits, changing habits around, maybe looking at changing diet. So this is kind of a really good time because the added sunshine gives us that extra energy. And hopefully any changes like this kind of shushes up the energy, whether it shushes up the energy in your home and makes your home feel lighter, brighter, and more spacious, or whether it's something in your routine that gives you more energy. A friend of mine that I visited, he's like doing a new exercise routine and he's looking at every single thing that he can in order to support himself to make this something that's going to last, for the year. So it can be on many different levels that we're looking at this kind of clearing the decks and looking at making space also for the new things that we want in our life. So that's one way of looking at it and welcoming in this spring, preparing for spring. And I will share some more about that in the weeks to come. But obviously, everyone is now looking forward to spring. And with that comes a change of color and mood. And depending on where you are, you might have had the first spring flowers already. And it just gives us that, I think, that extra sense of anticipation. It's almost here and we can almost feel it, even though it's still very cold and I'm still in my very warm jumpers and scarves. And another way that we do it in the Nordic countries is also, or at least, very much in Denmark, is by writing Easter letters. Now, it's almost a forgotten art, I've realized in some places, but nevertheless, it's something that my son and I spent some time doing whilst we were there. And I've spoken about it on here before, but it's very much an ancient art that goes back, it traces its root back several hundred years. And the tradition basically takes its root in the fact that you're sending an Easter letter to someone and they have to guess who this letter is from. And the modern tradition is that if the person doesn't guess it, then basically you are entitled to a chocolate Easter egg. In olden days, women were allowed to send these to, the men that they fancied, and if they didn't guess them, I think they had to give something like 12 pairs of gloves or something like that. But what is an Easter letter? Well, I have made a very simple version here because I've been working together with my son. And they are basically paper cuttings. And this is just a very simple one that I made together with my son. So you take a piece of paper and you fold it. And I only folded this like couple of times, the more you fold it, the more ornate. And obviously, you can fold it in various places in order to do more of it. And then you cut little bits out of it. And the tradition is that you then take you start making these as soon as the first snowdrops, the flowers start appearing, and you will send these with a snowdrop tucked into some of these little holes. And also traditionally, you would write on here in Danish that, how can I translate it? My name is written with dots. Be careful that it doesn't poke you. I don't know, pinch you. It rhymes in Danish. And then you make little dots, as many dots as there are letters in your name, and then people can find it. There are many other really, really elaborate poems and so on, but this is what I've been doing with my now 7-year-old son. And this art goes back several hundred years. And if you've heard of the Danish author Hans Christian Andersen, who's famous for his fairy tales, he was really into the art of paper cutting as well. And at his museum in Odense in Denmark, they have some of these really lovely paper cuttings displayed as well as in other museums as well. And I'll try and share some of those. So this is just a really simple activity, bearing in mind that obviously maybe the weather is still not for being outside, but it's a way again of connecting in with nature by maybe bringing in a snowdrop into it. And it's also very much about the anticipation leading up to Easter, because with the Easter letters, which in Danish are called the gækkebrev, because gæk means that you are kind of fooling around, and I can't really find the word for that, but you're playing a game basically, being a bit mischievous with someone. And the deal is that if people don't guess who this is from by the arrival of Easter, well, then it's obviously when you get your chocolate Easter egg. So the anticipation again is all about the spring and the arrival of spring. And obviously, I'll talk a lot more about Easter, but Easter really being when spring really arrives and a celebration of everything coming back alive in nature and the fertility of everything and the abundance of everything. And I think that is really something that we need, especially as summer days. These days can seem really, really long and drag on. It's this reminder that the sun has turned. If you're living in the northern hemisphere, the days are definitely getting longer, and it's that anticipation that some more energy is going to get, going to find its way to us, and finally we'll be able to hopefully go out and do all those things as well in nature that we've been hoping to do. Now, another thing that we did actually, which is almost like a long lost tradition that I've forgotten, is Danish waffles or even Scandinavian waffles. Now, a lot of people associate waffles with Belgium, but there's a long tradition of these as well in Scandinavia, and we have them heart shaped. And we had some of those. Again, it can be a way of using up things, in the time in time for Lent, and serving them with all sorts of delicious things that need to be cleared out of the cupboard. So in time for spring and for maybe healthier way forward in the new year. But there's nothing quite like it, served with hot chocolate or tea or coffee, whatever you like, having been for a very long muddy walk in the forest or around lakes. And we did so. I had the privilege of doing a couple of these, and it's gorgeous. Even when it's misty and muddy and everything, just being out and seeing the trees having the first little shoots, coming out, the leaves are slowly, getting ready to unfold. It's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, it can be hard work trampling through the mud like that. So then coming home and lighting a fire and having homemade waffles was a treat, a real treat. That I'd almost forgotten that we sometimes have this time of year. So a new waffle maker is on the top of my wish list, really, for the year. And I have got my grandmother's old cast iron one, and I'll never give it away, but it's sometimes a bit messy to make waffles with on the stove. So yeah, so there you've got it. Some really simple Nordic ways that we use to kind of start looking forward to spring and to welcoming spring. And I hope that some of this can inspire you to do the same. It doesn't need to be anything big, it doesn't need to be anything fancy, but clearing the decks, using these extra hours of sunlight, maybe for a walk or for, if you can, or for clearing something in the house. And it doesn't matter how little it is, sometimes it can make a really big difference, even if it's just like a little thing. I did it yesterday. I had a bit of a sort out of things that I knew that I've had around for ages that I know I'm never going to use anymore. And I was thinking, why? Why? So just those little things, keep passing them on to people who will really appreciate them, or giving them to a charity or a thrift shop is a nice gesture. And as I said, it can make a big difference to how we then feel energetically about our own home, and also about ourselves, embracing the spring that is almost here. There you go. I can't see any questions having popped up, and obviously this was totally unannounced. But if you have got any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. I'm going to go and rest for a bit. I feel a bit after my travel still, and I hope I'm not coming down with a cold. So if I have been rambling, I will definitely blame it on that. I hope you have a lovely week ahead, and I will speak to you again soon. See you soon. Bye bye.